What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of the Thank God for Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, Johnny King, and I also have another host with me.
CJ McClure.
Yes, sir. And we have a lot of stuff to get into, but before we get into it, obviously Money in the Bank just passed, so that's what we're going to talk about today. But we want to just explain how we kind of got this podcast together. We met through Bleacher Report, the app, and they have like a WWE, like, what is it, like a forum page, or I guess you could call it.
Kind of community. I kind of compare it to Twitter, but on Bleacher Report.
Yeah, and I was like, I posted on there because I've been wanting to start a podcast for wrestling for a minute, but I don't really know anybody else that watches wrestling in my friend group. So I posted on there who wants to start a podcast with me, DM me on Instagram, and he DM'd me. So a couple of days later, here we are, and we're on the first episode. So yeah. All right. So Money in the Bank was obviously this was out is yesterday for us. So you guys will be seeing this probably Monday or Tuesday. So it was this past weekend. We have a lot of stuff to get into. I have a lot of opinions, and I know CJ also has a lot of opinions. But we're just gonna go through the show and basically chronological order, just talk about the matches, summarize how we feel about everything. We might get into some other topics after that, but we're gonna just start. I actually want to start with like one of the first things that happened, which was the Paul Heyman promo. Did you see that in the kickoff show?
I actually didn't. I didn't watch the kickoff show this time around.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I,
So
I didn't see it.
Kayla Braxton, you know how she has the stick going with Paul Heyman or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. She just knocked on Roman Reigns' door. He came out and he was basically saying, uh, yeah. So Kayla Braxton speaks to Paul Heyman in the back. His mood is different as he goes on about how he's never seen Roman like this. He's saying there will be no tribal chief tonight, but we'll see a Samoan warrior. Basically, saying that Roman's gonna come out for blood, and we're never gonna see a beating like this before. He's in a different mode because of everything that he's been through. But obviously, as we'll talk about the main event, I feel like Paul Heyman hyped it up way too much. But props to Paul Heyman because his promo was crazy. Like he had me feeling it. He had literal tears in his eyes. I was like, okay, so we're in for something crazy. But yeah, honestly, after hearing that and then going to the main event, it kind of hyped it up. But so yeah, you should go back and watch it. It was honestly pretty good. But I don't know how you feel about Paul Heyman, but I personally think he's like one of the best, if not the best, like managers and creatives of all time.
Paul is, in my humble opinion, top two managers of all time, but he's not two. Top two is
Yeah,
Heyman and Paul Bearer.
yeah,
He's, in
yeah,
my
facts.
opinion. And yeah, I mean, if there was an Oscars awards for wrestling, Paul would have already won like 5
Yes,
awards by now. I
yes,
mean, like in
yes,
this storyline alone, I mean, like what you just said
yes.
with the tears and how he's always been great on the mic, right? I mean, like, but what he said on the mic,
Yeah,
his role in this storyline, yeah, I mean, everything you just said doesn't surprise me at all. I can definitely agree that, not that I didn't see it, but I think he overhyped it a little too much. And obviously, we'll get to the main event when we get to the main event. But like, the one thing I will say before we get there is, was Roman going to try and, trying to pick my words correctly, beat their cousins for lack of a better term, right? His cousins for lack of a better term, but Bro still loves his family, and that's evident at one point in the match, and that's evident back at Hell in a Cell years
hmm
ago. So I mean, that's why I agree with you. I think Paul did overhype it just a little bit.
yeah. And then that was at the kickoff show. And then, do you want to get into the main event first, or you want to save that for last?
Save it for last.
Save it for last.
Yep.
Okay, so the first thing match we're going to talk about is the match that kicked off the show, the men's Money in the Bank. Some of my notes for this: the crowd when LA Knight came, the crowd in general was crazy. They need to keep bringing shows back to the UK. The UK fans are just insane. But the pop when LA Knight came out is so crazy. And I'm the biggest LA Knight fan, and I'm probably biased, but it was just insane. The place erupted.
Yeah, I mean, they have lightning in a bottle right now. I mean, and I'll admit it, I wasn't really that educated on LA Knight until this really past few months. I mean, I didn't really. It's not that I disliked him. I had no feelings towards him. I was neutral towards him in his feud against Bray Wyatt. But we have something organic. There's not. It's not forced. I mean, and London's already electric as it is, but you go back on the one Raw where Logan Paul announced that he was going to be in the match, and then again, LA Knight came out, organic pop. I mean, they're all going along with everything he's saying. They're saying yeah every time he talked. It honestly, I think I saw this on YouTube. It's a little bit of a blend of like Stone Cold and
Mm-hmm.
The Rock.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know,
Yep.
like
I was talking about. Yep.
the
I was,
pops are like Steve, but he's cutting promos like Dwayne.
yep. Yep. My brother was like, he reminds me of Stone Cold Steve Austin. I was like, yeah, because he kind of has that attitude era feel, especially the way he
Right.
delivers his promos. He has a one-word catchphrase, and his ring work. He's not crazy great in the ring, but he does what he needs to do, and he
Right.
allows his personality and character to help him perform to the best of his abilities. And I think that they obviously we'll get to the winner, but I feel like if he won, it would have been great. But I'm honestly not that mad that the outcome didn't go in his favor. But LA Knight, he's definitely a future world champion in my eyes.
100%.
And obviously Ricochet was in it, Logan Paul, Shinsuke, Santos Escobar, and I know I'm missing one more.
Butch.
Butch, yes, Butch. Which he got a good reception too from because London is or England is his home. So he got a good reception. The one thing I do want to talk about was the Ricochet and Logan Paul Spanish Fly. That was a very crazy spot because you can see that they didn't plan to go off the second rope. They wanted to go off the top rope. And it was almost like a bad botch, but Logan was able to tuck his head just enough to get to the hit the ground right. But that could have been crazy.
You know, so that's one of my points too. And yeah, I mean, like I got a little worried for a second because like I thought they landed directly on their heads. I mean,
Yeah.
kudo. I mean, I as fans, obviously we appreciate how they try to entertain us with the spots that they do, but that was a little risky if you ask me. I mean,
Yeah,
kudos to
yeah,
both those
yeah.
guys for still being able to land the way that they did. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
crazy spot. But yeah, I mean, it made me wince a little bit. I'm like, crazy moment, but I hope they're okay.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, just kind of knock out back-to-back points real quick. I cannot remember a time where we had tables in a Money in the Bank ladder match.
No, really, yeah. And they used them good too
Yeah.
this match. And what I was gonna say was I talked to you about this earlier, but what Logan Paul has been able to accomplish in this short of time, picking up wrestling that quick, even Triple H said he's generational. Like he's great the way he does this. And he really is a natural heel. Like when I watch WWE television and see Logan Paul on my screen, I naturally want to boo him and I naturally don't I naturally don't want to see him win, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and that's I mean, you're reading my mind. That's one of my points. I mean, how I mean, let's go back months ago, right? So I mean, and I'll admit I'm biased, and I don't really like the guy. I have no like I don't hate him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like I don't
Mm-hmm.
really like the guy. He just being a natural hero he is, he annoys me.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I gotta give credit where credit's due. I mean, I didn't watch his WrestleMania match last year. I was like, I'm not watching that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care for Logan Paul.
Mm-hmm.
But the little clips I saw, I'm like, okay, well, dude's actually pretty athletic. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't watch the SummerSlam match against The Miz, but then I saw the frog splash through the table. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, dude started to kind of get my attention. For him to go into Saudi Arabia in main event with Roman
With
Reigns,
Roman Reigns.
arguably one of the best in the world, and almost put like a 4-star match,
Mm-hmm.
4.5-star match, something like that. I'm like, all right, I'm sold. I was like, I
Yeah.
mean, like what you just said, how quickly he's learned, how he's gotten better cutting promos. He knows his role. Not to sound like Triple H, but he is good for business.
Mm-hmm.
Adding him to this match was a good call.
And honestly, you could have made a case for him winning the briefcase. Because think about all the publicity he gets with his podcast. He's very well known, and he would carry that briefcase around wherever he went. He would have it in the back of his background during the podcast, and they really could have brought some more eyes to the Money in the Bank match if they had went that route. I could have totally see a case for that.
But yeah, I mean, Logan carrying the briefcase around, if he would have won, I mean that would just continue to bring mainstream attention to WWE, and that's what Logan. I don't want to say that's what Logan's for, but that's what is good at
Yeah,
because he's
that
so well
yeah.
known.
Yeah. Honestly, they brought him in to bring more eyes to the company. So I honestly could have saw a case for him winning. Yeah, but obviously the winner was Damian Priest after he tried to do his finisher on LA Knight like off the ladder. He hit it, but he ended up like stumbling. He wasn't supposed to fall. He was supposed to make the climb to the ladder, but he hit the finisher. LA Knight fell off the ladder. Damien slipped off, and then he had to go back up and then make the climb. and he won. And honestly, there was some mix. He was getting quite a few boos, which I just feel like I like me personally, I don't feel one way or another about Damian Priest. I don't know. How about you?
So I do like Damian. I think he's a good athlete. I think he has put on good matches. I think he's
Mm,
definitely a better heel. And regarding him winning, because that's one of my points here. First off, his cash in has to be successful. I'll come back to that. But
yeah.
him winning, I was thinking about this after the match, and I was thinking about this today. And obviously, there's an exception to everything.
Mm-hmm.
But in my mind, and I'm just going to compare apples and oranges here. I think most of the time a heel should win the Money in the Bank ladder match.
Mm-hmm.
Heels, because think about it. The champion could be dead in the ring, come down,
Yeah.
cash it in, take advantage of the situation. That's a heelish thing to do on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Winning the Royal Rumble, it's a face thing to do. You
Yeah.
outlast, 29 other guys and went the distance,
Mm-hmm.
and you earned your spot. Not to say you
Yeah.
don't earn the ladder match, but so if LA and I would have won, which that was both of our predictions,
Mm-hmm.
that obviously would have been giving the people what they wanted, but I think with LA Knight not winning, this is gonna make him more of a chaser. I feel like this is still gonna
Mm-hmm.
keep people behind him even more.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I wasn't against Damien winning, and clearly they're gonna go down the storyline with him and Finn and the cracks in the Judgment Day. So I appreciate that they have a plan to it. But his
Yeah.
cash in, next point, his cash in has to be successful. I'm
Ye
tired of this guy wins and loses the case. I'm tired of defending it like a title. If you're gonna defend it like a title, then just
Mm-hmm.
retain it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you need a match on the card, then sure, but retain
Mm-hmm.
it. His cash in has to be successful. Has
Mm-hmm.
to be.
And yeah, and I what obviously, like you said, we wanted LA Knight to win, but say LA Knight wins, we get the one moment where the crowd erupts. But where do we go from here? What does LA Knight do with it? Does because he's not beating Roman. He's not gonna beat Roman for the title. So are they gonna take the belt off Seth this early? LA Knight, they would have to figure out what to do with him, how they wanted to do it. And I feel like there is more of a story with Damien. So Damien was kind of like, okay, we have a solid plan of what we want to do, obviously, with him and Finn. So other than that, I kind of agree, and I like their move with Damien because now we do have a set story that obviously started brewing in the Seth versus Finn match. So, and yeah, like you said, I'm tired of the Money in the Bank winners not doing anything with the briefcase. Like, look at Otis, look at Austin Theory, Baron Corbin didn't have a successful cash in. Neither did Shinsuke. Shinsuke won, and then did Shinsuke win or was that the Rumble?
Rumble. It was Rumble.
Rumble. Okay, okay. I was about to say I know he won the Rumble and he didn't even win the title at Mania. So it's like Cody. They WWE just I feel like they fumble on a lot of opportunities. Like what's the
Yeah,
point of having them win if they're not gonna finish the job, you know?
right, and there's exceptions, right? I mean, like, when Mr. Kennedy was about to get fired and they're suspended or something, I forgot what the story was, so that's why he lost it to Edge and they gave it to Edge. That's an
Yeah.
exception to the rule, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I mean, pick the right guy or at least make an argument for the guy, let him keep it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and like, we kind of briefly talked about today how like, a completely separate topic, right? But how Undertaker's streak should have never ended. Well,
Yeah.
there should always every Money in the Bank cash in should have always been successful.
Mm-hmm. That's the
In my
whole
opinion.
point of the Money in the Bank
Right.
is to get the title, you know? Like,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
So,
And
but
yeah, and one of the notes I did have was speaking of Shinsuke, I want Shinsuke. We need a heel Shinsuke. We need a ruthless Shinsuke. We need a New Japan style Shinsuke, just ruthless in the ring. And we need him to. I want him to eventually hold the New World Heavyweight Championship.
yeah, I mean, we need a heel Shinsuke, not the sorry me no speak English or kicking
Yeah,
AJ Styles in the nuts. Like
yeah, yeah.
yes, we need an actual aggressive heel run. And I'm reading your notes. Shinsuke needs to be a world champion before he leaves WWE and retires.
Yes, 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 yes. That's what I'm saying. We need him to we don't need this little Uzi Shinsuke, we need like a Shinsuke who's out for blood, a Shinsuke who's here to make a statement before he eventually retires, because he's getting up kind of up there in age. I think he's in his early 40s, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, he's been with WWE NXT since 2016. I mean, it's
Yeah,
almost been a minute. I mean, it's making me
and
feel old.
and the fact that he was one of the greatest NXT champions, and then not being utilized to his full potential on the main roster. That's a whole different story. WWE not using NXT people to their full potential. Or should I be the one? Should I be the one to say Vince McMahon not using NXT people to their full potential? Can I say that, or is that too much?
I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, when Hunter was in charge of NXT, right? I mean, Balor, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode,
Yes.
uh, the
That's
Revival,
a
American
that's a
Alpha.
whole different video. We need to do WWE's biggest what ifs or could have beens, and Bobby Roode will be on that list because his gimmick, it was impeccable. His run in his run in TNA didn't show them what he could do, then I don't know what will. Glorious was a great way for him to come into the main roster and really he could have been a top guy. He could have been a world champion. But that's a whole different story. Vince McMahon, I don't know. But apparently, he's not in charge anymore. But
Future episode right there.
yeah, future episode. The next match we want to get into was the women's tag match. I don't want to bash this match, but I will say, like, I don't know, man. The women's tag team, they call it a women's tag team division, but we really don't have any women's tag teams. So what is the point of having women's tag team championships if you don't have any tag teams to contend for them? So yeah, you can say how you feel about that
Yeah,
match.
I mean, yeah, I appreciated that they wanted to obviously give the women more gold, right? Like ever
Yeah.
since like 2016, when triple threat match stole
Mm-hmm.
the show at WrestleMania 32, then the Royal Rumble, and then the Money in the
Mm-hmm.
Bank, first women's Hell in a Cell match. I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated that the women were giving more of a chance to put on really good matches.
Mm-hmm.
Bailey and Sasha Banks, future
Mm-hmm.
video right here, but greatest women's match of all time, if you ask me, at NXT Takeover Brooklyn. So I mean, I appreciate it, but I mean, yeah, I mean, if you're not gonna put in any elbow grease into it and like actually try, then how are we supposed to take it seriously?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like that's why, again, separate video right here, but that's why, from a certain point of view, I did kind of see where Naomi and Sasha Banks are coming from.
Yeah, yeah,
That,
yeah.
that
Uh-huh.
they were. Would I have walked out? No, but I mean, but I respected they voiced their frustrations,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought this match had the potential to be
Yeah,
average.
to
I don't even think it was bad. I
it
mean,
wasn't bad.
it had a
Yeah.
moment.
Uh-huh.
It had a moment.
I feel like they should have saved. Obviously, everybody knows that Shayna Baszler turned on Ronda Rousey, but I feel like they could have saved that moment for after the match. You know, like I feel like it happened maybe a little bit too quick. Maybe at least in my, it
The
just felt like
match
it just had a weird I don't know, it had a weird tempo to it. Maybe.
the match was too short, definitely in my opinion,
Yeah.
and I hear what you're saying, but I think the match should have went longer, and I think kind of really what they were already about to do should have gone to the point where like, oh, okay, the champ's about to retain, and boom, Shayna
Mm-hmm.
attacks her like she did because I mean, I guess my kind of where I'm not arguing with you, but like the one counter
Yeah,
argument I
yeah,
had to
yeah,
what you
yeah.
said is that like if they retained and then Shayna attacked her, then the titles are just going to be vacated. But Shayna
Mm-hmm.
cost them the match,
Mm-hmm.
cost them the championship. So now
Mm-hmm.
we have the storyline of we're friends and you stab me in the back and you cost us the titles,
Mm-hmm.
which is now setting up their match for SummerSlam,
SummerSlam, yeah.
which I'm very excited to see.
Yeah, yeah. And then I know I talked to you about this earlier, but there's supposedly rumors going around. I don't know how true they are. I just saw them in headlines that Ronda Rousey is planning to make a UFC comeback, sources say. So, and obviously with the whole Endeavor situation, that could be a very possible thing to happen. But yeah, I just don't feel like she has been used to the fullest potential in WWE, but that's just me. But she's accomplished a lot for the short time she's been here. I just feel like her and Shayna maybe still had more things they could have done in the women's division, especially if their plan was to try to build up a women's tag team division. I feel like they could have been like more like a Blackpool Combat Club style group for the women's division.
Yeah, I mean, regarding UFC, I think it's definitely possible with Endeavor, and I mean, I personally wouldn't be opposed to seeing that. I mean, I'm not a huge UFC fan. I know the big names, right? But I mean, but Ronda, what her last two matches, her fights, she lost. So I
Yeah,
mean,
she
like
lost them.
yes, she probably feels like she hasn't finished business. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think Ronda, yes, she hasn't been used to her potential. But she cannot cut a promo to save her life.
She cannot. She really can't. I feel like cutting promos, you have to have something in you. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's hard to learn how to cut a correct promo. I feel like a lot of it comes from intuition and just like feeling it out and knowing that there's something inside of you who can bring out a character and make people feel emotions. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I think you gotta have charisma, you gotta
Yeah.
have it, and you gotta believe in yourself, not to, use a cliche, but you
Yeah.
do.
You have to be
Um,
able to I need to be able to believe what you're
right,
what you're saying. Even though we all know that it's not real. I don't even want to use the R word, but even though it's not even though it's not real, it's not really happening. But I want to be able to know in my mind that it's not real and understand and be able to still be able to be convinced about the story.
right. And, just kinda just your comment also of her talking, accomplishing a lot. Kind of a quick sidebar, but in my humble opinion, Ronda's best match of her tenure in WWE was against Sasha Banks at the Royal Rumble, and I'll admit I'm
Yes.
biased because I
Okay.
was there for that live.
Okay. I
So,
bet that was crazy.
it was.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was.
yeah.
But the only other point I have, I mean, Ronda versus Shane at SummerSlam. I'm excited to see that. I didn't see the betrayal coming, but it makes sense. SummerSlam's the second biggest pay per view of the year. Ronda versus Shayna is a good match, obviously if
Yeah.
executed correctly. So I'm
Hmm.
excited to see that. Slight hot take I have. Eventually, I think Raquel should be pushed. Eventually,
Yes, dude. I want to see Raquel Rodriguez versus Rhea Ripley.
didn't even
That
think of
that
that. I agree with
that
you.
face off they had a couple of Mondays ago, I think it was.
That's
Uh,
right.
that got me pumped because and they need to make Raquel a heel. They need to make her heel. I don't want to see her smiling every chance she gets and posing on my TV. I want to see her I want to see her really beat people up because I believe that she can be that powerhouse to eventually challenge Rhea Ripley for that woman's title.
She's a big girl too. I mean,
Yeah.
she has that potential. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that.
And I'm still kind of salty about how they took the titles off of Alba Fire and Ela Dawn, and I hope that eventually there is a feud with them and Liv and Raquel. I feel like they could have some great matches. And the only last point I had about this was if they're not going to spend the time to put the effort into building up the women's tag team division, I feel like they need to just introduce a women's mid card belt, like a women's intercontinental championship belt.
I am not opposed to that. I can't think of how you could do that correctly. I mean, I guess in my mind, I think of maybe bringing back the Divas Championship, but at the same time, that would also I feel like that maybe be disrespectful in the sense of like that it's the women's division, not the
Yeah,
Divas
I
division.
mean, I would just call it the women's intercontinental championship, and it would be like the mid card women's belt. If we're not gonna spend the time to put the time into the women's tag team champions, either we just take them away completely and not have any belts, or if you want to still have another belt that women can hold, just have like a mid card belt, and someone like a Raquel could have that.
I think that for me, that's just one of those things I'd have to see it played out first. Like
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I'd have to kind of give it a chance, see if it cooks, see if it's expired, and if
Hmm.
it's not good, then like I
And
would
honestly,
just
now that you say that, we're not even getting full potential out of our men's mid card belt. So maybe we just, because Austin Theory hasn't done anything. He's probably the most irrelevant champ in WWE right now. Like, what has he done?
he's I think he's defended fairly often, but like, I was talking to one of my buddies about this and he made a great point. Championships need to be defended every pay-per-view.
Yes, yes, yes. That's
I mean,
into my eyes, that's what pay-per-views are for, big matches.
Right. I mean, it makes the title more respectable. It makes the wrestler more respectable. And obviously, you have your open challenges here and there on Raw and
Mhm.
SmackDown, and that's good for TV. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's kind of a separate conversation. But yeah, I mean, Austin Theory. I think
Yeah.
Austin Theory's gotten better since Hunter became in charge. But yeah, I mean, Gunther Theory.
Yes, Gunther is skyrockets above
Yeah.
Theory.
Which
Hot
on that
take.
note,
Yeah, okay. No, I'm not even gonna say my hot take because that would have been crazy. That would have been crazy. That
okay.
would have been crazy. That would have been crazy.
I was going to say just like no, we brought up Gunther, just transitioning to the IC title.
Yeah, the IC title match, Gunther and in my notes I have Gunther basically squash match.
I see what you mean. I don't think it was a squash. You see my notes. I got hard hitting as expected because it
Hmm.
was by
Hmm.
both guys, but I do think it was just a little rushed.
Yeah, that's
Just a little.
it was only like a 7 minute match, I believe. Seven,
Yeah,
8 minute match. Yeah.
should
And
have went
only
on another 5 minutes.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. They could have had match of the night.
They could
if
have
if they
very
really
well.
let them if they really let them go. But the big takeaway from this match was you predicted it. I also predicted it that Drew McIntyre would return. We didn't say when he returned, would return there, but we just said he would return that night.
Right.
And he returned and he confronted Gunther. Gunther put his hand in his face. Drew hit him with the Claymore. Then he held the IC title above his head. What are your thoughts on Drew returning?
Well, first off, just welcome back. I mean, there were those rumors of him contract negotiations weren't going well, and I mean, I'm glad that they clearly did go well. For him to obviously to come back because
Hmm.
if WWE would have lost him, that would have been a huge loss. I mean, I don't know. I personally can't see him in AEW. He'd probably have to change his character, but
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
would. Yeah.
I'm glad he's still here. I'm excited for Drew versus Gunther at SummerSlam. I would probably still book Gunther to win. He needs
Hmm.
to break the IC title record. I mean, for
Hmm.
him to have the UK Championship reign and then this IC title reign, I mean, that's gonna be huge for Gunther's legacy. But I
Hmm.
do hope that not now at SummerSlam, excuse me, but I hope that Drew does have the moment that he should have had during COVID. When
Yeah.
he beat Brock. I
Hmm.
hope Drew gets that.
Yeah. I hope eventually he will be he will be booked right. He will be okay with the company, however they are treating him now. Because I feel like he does have the obviously the potential to carry the company on his back like he did during COVID.
Yeah.
He could be one of the big faces of the company again.
Yeah, I mean, I think he has the potential. I mean, him, Randy Orton, and Roman, Sasha, and Bailey all carried the company during
Hmm.
COVID, and Drew
Hmm.
is one of those guys. I mean, so yeah, I think Drew completely has the capability to do so. I think you could argue that he should have had his moment at Clash of the Castle, but the fact of the matter is, Roman's a
Yeah,
draw, so
no, yeah, no
you
one
can't,
would, yeah. Yeah,
you
but
can't be, you can't
I
be that.
will say they did make a great job at believing there was just there could be a chance that he could pull it off.
Yes, 100% agree. But yeah, I mean, I thought the match was watchable. I mean, you're right. They really should have stole the show. I don't think it was a dud, but it did not reach its full potential.
Yeah, I just think it was a little bit rushed and it was and I mean to their expense they did only have a couple weeks or so to build up the feud. But
True.
I mean, yeah. And then this brings us to Cody Rhodes versus Dominic Mysterio. You can start off with your points because I have a lot to say about about this one.
Yeah, it was about that big. So were your
Yeah.
notes, but I only got three for this. And based off reading your notes, we might. I think we're gonna actually disagree on some things here. But
Okay.
first things first, Dom is a natural heel, and Eddie would be proud. I mean,
Yes, he would. He
he'd be
would.
so proud of what Ray and Dom did at WrestleMania and accomplished at that. So I mean,
Definitely.
Dom is a natural heel, great at what he's doing. The future's bright. Um, I wrote down the whoa of
Yeah,
one of my
yeah, yeah.
notes. So
Mhm.
this is where I think you and I are going to disagree. Cody is still over that's what I stand by that. I mean, the woes are getting louder and louder every time, or
Yeah.
at least they're maintaining. So I mean, Cody's still
Yeah.
over in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
And just very small detail that I wanted to point out. I cannot remember since Cody's been back, like when he came back from AEW back to WWE, since he's
Hmm.
used the Alabama Slam. I could be
Oh
wrong.
yeah, I saw that he did that, and I was like,
Right.
hmm,
I was like, that's OG
yeah, because
Cody
he
moves right
went
there.
around too with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, he did
Yeah.
the same thing that he did when him and Goldust faced Roman and Seth in the Shielded
Hmm.
Battleground. Like
Hmm.
spin, 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 boom. I
Yeah.
was like, I don't think he's done that since he's
Hmm.
been back. I
Yeah.
was like, so that's I mean, I guess granted he can only do to so many guys, right? I mean, because I mean some
Yeah.
guys are just heavy, but still, I mean,
Yeah.
I was like, that's OG Cody right there. So I kind of caught my attention. Um, the match was solid. I think it was still a good, like it was a solid, good match and watchable. But you know what we you and I predicted, if I remember correctly, was
Hmm.
Brock was going to return and cost Cody the match, and then
Yeah.
and Dom would beat him because in my, I mean, they need to have a rubber match, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like
Yeah.
they're 1-1 against each other. So I mean,
Yeah.
how are you going to build up the match now
Yeah.
between Cody versus Brock if they're even going to do that? I don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah. Ah, man. I don't know, dude. To me, okay. Yes, Dom, he has the most heat in WWE right now.
Yeah.
Because the boos, they get louder and louder every week. He's a natural heel. He's doing great things. But to me, I already know I'm gonna be the bad cop on this podcast. In my notes, I have boring Cody win. Boring Cody win. Because if Brock didn't return, what was all this for? Like we get a little mini feud for Cody to face adversity to help him finish the story in the future. Like, cool. Dom slaps him in the face. Let's fight. Okay, cool. The match didn't last that long. Brock didn't return. Cody won clean. What was to me, it was just very anticlimactic, and it just felt like we don't really have anything to do. Brock didn't want to come to London. We weren't going to pay him enough to come to London and just make an interference. So we're just going to put Cody in this match so he can get a win and he can get the whoa and he can be the people's hero. He can be the face that we were paying him to be. So yeah, that's my only like. What was the point of this, and why did we have to have this for nothing to happen with him and Brock? Which I'm guessing they're going to bring Brock back either tomorrow or in the next coming weeks, but. I did write in my notes. I have a question. Has Cody's momentum to finish the story been killed? And does he need to beat Roman now, or has that ship sailed?
I say no. I think, and I'm sure you've seen this before. I think they're taking the long way around, kind of like with John Cena. You just told me today you went to WrestleMania 29 as a kid. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think they're taking the long way around, like kind of comparing it to John Cena. John
Mm-hmm.
lost to The Rock, WrestleMania 28. You know, the
Yep. Yep. He was
sitting the way
sad
he did.
sitting
Yep,
on the stage.
yep, like very important match. But then, Kate, and barely beat Brock Lesnar, lost to John Laurinaitis, lost to CM
Yep.
Punk over and over and over again, lost to Dolph Ziggler, won the Royal Rumble, redeemed himself for WrestleMania. I think they're going that way. And yes, I think Cody does need to beat Roman. Obviously finish the story and all that, but also the like real life fact of Roman had a relationship with Dusty.
Mm-hmm.
Dusty is a part of Roman's success because of NXT.
Mm-hmm.
Roman has been a world champion
Mm-hmm.
multiple times. Cody has not.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, yeah, I mean, I think Cody still does need to beat Roman, but I mean, but Roman obviously needs to finish his story right now with the Bloodline, Jay and Jimmy and Solo to get back to Cody. And plus, if you remember, Cody called it before
Mm-hmm.
WrestleMania. He said, Jay's gonna leave you, Jimmy's gonna leave you,
Yep.
Solo's gonna leave you, and you're gonna be what do you say,
A tribe with
tribal,
a chief with no
tribe,
tribe.
empty
Yeah.
table, all that. So I mean, like I don't want to say it's a parallel, so to speak, but like everything that Cody said is unfolding. So I mean, Cody's
Mm-hmm.
still a part of the story. He's just on a sidebar right now,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in my opinion.
I just don't want them to not have a lot of things for Cody to do, which I'm hoping is Randy Orton. We get to see Randy Orton come back soon, and maybe they can feud because they have obviously a lot of history with Legacy back in the day.
Definitely.
But yeah, I just don't want I just don't want the Cody engine to burn out too quick. And then, because if we get tired of him, or if the community gets tired of him, what do we do? You know, I just don't want
Right.
it when if he beats Roman, I don't want it to be anticlimactic. Like, oh,
Right.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, and I think I guess to kind of not necessarily like kind of argue with you like why they had the match, but I mean, I will say this, something that I thought of. They obviously didn't build the match around this, but two second generation superstars going against each
yes,
other.
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Son of Ray, son of Dusty. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they obviously didn't build that around. I don't even think they even mentioned in the commentary, but that is
Yeah.
something that I
Mm-hmm.
kind of thought of. And the fact of the matter is, Cody is still a bit of a draw. I mean, with the
Yeah.
reactions that he's getting, I mean, like they would have been a little fools and not bring him over to
Yeah,
London.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not mad that they had the match. Obviously, they're gonna have Cody on the match, but
Right.
I just like to play devil's advocate and
Yeah, for sure.
make people just a little bit mad.
Yeah. But
But
that's all I got for that one.
yeah, speaking of John Cena, I was not expecting this at all. I don't think anyone was expecting this. I was literally making my meal in the kitchen and I hear John Cena's music hit and I'm like, that must be just like just like a replay of something. And I hear the crowd go crazy and I'm like, John Cena returns and John, here he is. He's in London. It's a crazy surprise. And he came out to basically get the crowd riled up and he was basically saying he wants a WrestleMania to come to London, but the higher ups, aka Vince McMahon, doesn't like the crowd and they think that they're a distraction. They think that it's too hostile environment. But he said that he's gonna try to get WrestleMania to come to London. And I have a big question here before we get into the person who interrupts him. Do you think this is because of what AEW is doing at Wembley Stadium? Do you think this is their response?
I didn't even think of that. I would not be surprised. I mean, it would be ignorant to say that AEW is not a competitor. They are. I mean,
Yeah.
to quote John said in an interview before, like anything that can take our eyes away from their product is
Mm-hmm.
competition. And what I think what AEW is better. I told you this when we met. I don't really sit down and watch AEW, but I've always kept up with them.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know all the details, but I think I know enough to make this judgment call and say that AEW is a little more edgier and they have a higher
Yeah.
demographic
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and um
It's AEW is basically the modern day ECW. That's how people describe it.
right. And
Yeah.
I think that they are better at actual I shouldn't say actual wrestling, but they have a style
Yeah,
that they do that
they
WWE doesn't.
to always when people always ask me, I say WWE is better at creating stories. AEW puts on better wrestling matches. But the way I look at it is, I'm not watching wrestling just for the matches. I want to be invested in the story. So if AEW has a potential to get WWE level psychology skills down to build a story, then they could be extremely good.
Right.
But I just believe that WWE will always have a one up because obviously they've been around longer and they just have a hold over how to make the story feel real.
To quote one of my favorite YouTubers, he's called Planet Productions. If you guys are wrestling fans, go watch him. He's a cool guy. He said when WWE tries, they're the best.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
but I will say this, to kind of like you play devil's advocate. I'm actually not speaking from my own experience. I have a friend that went to an AEW pay-per-view. I can't remember
Mm-hmm.
which one it was, but I think it was the one before MJF's pipe bomb, and then he got
Okay.
suspended. I think it was
Uh-huh.
that one. Could be wrong, but I was texting him about it, and he said, "Greatest experience I've ever had at a wrestling show."
Yeah, I've been to two AEW matches. I went to one in Norfolk and actually three. I went to one in Norfolk, two in DC, and the environment there is way more intense than a WWE environment. There's way more interaction, it's way more lively, way more rowdy, and it's just a fun environment. And it's not necessarily a lot of kids. It's more, like our age and millennials and older people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I asked him. I said, "Do you think that the environment at AEW that you went to do you think that's what the Attitude Era was like? Because that was before our time, right? So I mean, we
Yeah.
don't we don't know. I mean, we can only see it
Yeah,
on
if
TV, but
if if we could go back, bro. Only if we could go back.
right,
Only if we could go back.
but he did say he was like obviously he's like before our time, but if I had to guess, yeah, that's probably what it was
Yeah.
like, if
I
not better.
always Yeah, I always joke with my parents. I'm like, you guys were alive in your 30s when the Attitude Era was at its peak, and you guys didn't take advantage of seeing The Rock, Stone Cold, and all of those guys in their prime on TV every week. Like, I would kill to go back in time to see that.
On that note, quick sidebar, my old boss at Firehouse Subs up at school, she saw Stone Cold live during the Attitude Era, and
Yes,
she
I
said
that's
she said glass broke. She's screaming just like everybody else. Raised up her arms. Her water broke.
no way. That's
Seriously.
crazy. That's crazy. I would have stayed if I was her. I'd be like, baby can wait. Baby can wait. Baby can wait. I gotta see Stone Cold. I gotta see
It's
Stone
like,
Cold.
look at this.
No, literally. All
But
right. So, oh, no, you're good.
Jose, on that note, when you asked that question, this is one of my bullet points. WrestleMania in London has to happen.
Oh, for sure. It's gonna happen. I believe it might happen even in 2025. I feel like this was just like them getting us, before they announce it, because they always announce it when the one from the year before is gonna happen. So
Right.
like they announced Philly the last WrestleMania, so which I'm gonna have to try to go to. Philly's only like a 4 hour drive for me, so I might have to try to get some tickets to that. But yeah, WrestleMania in London has to happen. It has to be at Wembley Stadium because WWE Vince McMahon will not let Tony Khan beat him in any aspect. That's just not gonna happen.
No, which I
So
mean, definitely still got to respect Vince for staying competitive.
yeah, yeah, yeah. AEW, I think, has sold for their all in pay-per-view at Wembley, they sold around 70,000. And WWE will do that over that twice in a row, 2 nights back to back.
Definitely.
So Vince McMahon is not going to let Tony Khan, outshine him.
Nope.
But to keep it going, Cena's in the ring. After all that, we hear Grayson Waller's music hits. Grayson Waller comes down to the ring. He cuts a promo talking about Cena, how they should have a WrestleMania in Australia, and he should be his special guest on the Grayson Waller effect, and that it'll be the greatest of all time, greatest Grayson Waller show of all time. And he honestly held his own. He was very confident. He did not fumble, he sounded confident and he was very believable. And I just believe Grayson Waller has a lot of potential to do great things on the main roster. And I know they said he was coming back from a leg injury. That's why he hasn't been wrestling. I don't know if you've watched him in the ring, but he is actually very good in the ring also. So he's also good on the mic and in the ring.
100% agree. I mean, that was my biggest takeaway from him. I mean, he held his own. He held his own with John. He held his own against hostile London fans. I mean, just
Yeah.
kept going, didn't stutter, didn't stop. I mean, like he just kept going. I mean, so yeah, definitely held his own. I've seen bits and pieces of him wrestling in NXT. I
Mm-hmm.
paid the most attention to him when he had his match, like mini feud against AJ Styles. The
Yep.
fact
Yep.
that he
Yep.
put on a pretty good
Mm-hmm.
match against AJ Styles, I'm like, okay, some good future potential here, 100%.
Yeah.
And just on the topic of you saying the future and potential as well, one point I have on here, I don't think it's going to happen, which is why I put in a question mark, but Waller versus Cena at SummerSlam?
That's why I don't know if this was just a one-off because I heard Cena was filming in London. So I don't know if this was just Cena, we might as well have him come,
Right.
or if they're gonna use him to help get over a young talent like Waller, which I would not be opposed to because I feel like they could have some awesome promo battles and then end up putting on a decent match at SummerSlam.
The only thing that concerns me is that John did say recently on a podcast he was on of it's hard on
Yeah.
my body now, and I can only
Hmm.
do it once a year. What you saw at WrestleMania is the best I can do for the product, which,
Yeah.
man, I'm not trying to criticize John. I mean,
Yeah. No, I
one of my
understand. Yeah.
childhood favorites, but like when watching that match, it honestly looked like he wasn't that interested.
Yeah, it honestly just felt like he was there, just to be there, you know?
Yeah, I mean he
Yeah.
looked pasty, like he didn't get his
Mm-hmm.
tan. I mean, he's
Mm-hmm.
still great shape. I mean, like so
Yeah.
like that wasn't an issue, but just like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, Theory's biting you. I mean, low blow, sure, whatever. Theory's a heel, but I mean, but
Yeah.
biting you and like all these things. I mean,
But
I
yeah,
just think like that match could have been better. So I mean, that concerns me if they ever do have a Waller versus Cena match.
yeah, and I also understand that other factors play into it. I guess he doesn't want to put too much energy into it because if he gets hurt, then he can't act for a while, and that is paying the majority of his bills right now because he's a movie
True.
star. But yeah, I hope they use Waller right in my notes. He has so much potential.
And to Waller's point, I do think they should have a WrestleMania in Australia eventually. I mean,
Yeah,
I think the fans over there are solid. When they
Res-
had Super Showdown there, great crowd.
WrestleMania could literally hit every set of continents, not counting Antarctica.
True. You
Yeah.
know what? And before we go to the women's ladder match, we already kind
Hmm.
of talked about this when we first met over Instagram. Dude, there is no reason that we here in the States couldn't be like Montreal or Puerto Rico
That's
or
what I'm
London.
saying. How come the US just doesn't want to be a great crowd? I feel like it's because we take it for granted. We're like, oh, they travel everywhere in the US. We'll see them eventually. We see them all the time. And over there, they're so excited because they rarely get those tours. Maybe like once a year they get a overseas tour, and they're just that much more excited because they've been waiting and they're anxious to see all their favorite superstars.
And I think that definitely is a part of it too. But just like, I mean, dude, you could have an average card, and London could turn into a great show.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying Backlash was average because it wasn't. The card was a solid card, but Puerto Rico, those fans are the MVP of
Those,
that show.
yeah, they really carried the show, just like kind of how London did.
Right. I mean, and you are right. We do take it for granted because we do see them the most. And
Yeah.
I guess to slightly play devil's advocate too, because I do my best to try and see things from both sides for the most
Mm-hmm.
part. And don't get me wrong, it's obviously their job to still go out and put on a good show to try and get the reactions out of us. But
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean that we can't just enjoy what we're given either.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
you're there. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's obviously been some bad shows in the past and the history.
Yeah.
They're not perfect, but like,
Mm-hmm.
make the most of it, bro. Make
Yeah.
chants. Say
Mm-hmm.
what, like when they're on the mic, like Stone Cold's talking,
Mm-hmm.
yays and boos, creative chants. I mean, there's no reason we couldn't be that way.
Yeah. And now we're gonna move on to the women's Money in the Bank match. I only have a couple notes for this one, but there's a lot of stuff we can talk about in this. The first thing I want to point out is the biggest spot, in my opinion, of that match, the most crazy spot, Zelina Vega's Code Red. That was insane.
Talk about the sunset flip, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yep, that was insane, and it looked very, very, very rough because the ladder didn't even like break. I was like, that's crazy. But yeah, this match, it was honestly to me, it was a good match. The one thing I will say, the fish hook thing they did, or not the fish hook, but I call it fish hook, but the handcuff thing they did with Bailey, that wasn't because you could see it in the camera, it wasn't even in her mouth all the way, and I was like, okay, what are we really doing here? And Becky Lynch, that's my girl, and I'm like, come on, we're better than this, we're better than this WWE. But yeah, what'd you think about the match overall?
Honestly, solid match. Probably one of the best women's ladder matches in a while.
Yeah.
I don't even know if this is a hot take. I think the best one ever is probably back when Bailey won in 2019. That was the
Okay.
best
Yeah.
women's ladder match. But I
Mm-hmm.
think this was the best one since then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sunset flip. I mean, obviously we've seen it before when Andrade did it to Balor that same
Yeah.
year in
Mm-hmm.
2019. But I mean,
Man.
for those two girls who put their bodies on the line, I mean, like that was a
Yeah.
crazy spot. So I mean, kudos
Yeah.
to the girls for that. And I thought the handcuffs was pretty creative in my opinion. Like when
Yeah.
EO did that to Bailey and
Yeah. It would
Becky.
have it would have totally I would have been totally for it if it didn't fall out of her mouth.
Yeah.
But yeah. But big news, Io Sky wins this match. Io Sky wins. Bailey's you can tell Bailey is kind of jealous of her. So I'm guessing they're gonna do what they're gonna do with Damian and Finn and kind of play that storyline out. But yeah, we both predicted Io. I'm glad Io won. She has very, very, very extremely crazy potential, and I believe she will definitely be a women's world champion one day. And I don't know what I'm gonna say if she does not successfully cash in this Money in the Bank.
Oh yeah, I mean, just like we talked about with Damian, it has to be successful. EO deserves it. I mean, her time in NXT. I mean, Backlash. I think the crowd at Backlash clearly were
Mm-hmm.
saying like, push her. She's
Mm-hmm.
ready.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and she is ready, and she deserved it. I like the story with her and Bailey. That's one of my notes. Is damage control is about to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, Io deserves it. I think it was the right call. I think the other person I think I would have been okay with was Zelina.
Yep, Zelina, yeah.
I'm a fan of
You could have made
Zelina,
a case
but
for her too, yeah.
yeah, but I like the call with Io. Um, Another detail, kind of like the Alabama Slam that I made a note of. No ladders broke this year.
They didn't. They didn't. I don't know what
Yeah.
they're because none of the ones broke in the men's, did they?
No.
Yeah, so like what are those lighters made out of now, you
I
know?
mean, they look the same. I mean, granted, there wasn't really any, I guess, with the exception of the sunset flip, but still, it didn't break. I mean, but there wasn't really any high falls this
Yeah,
year.
I feel like back in the day, they would still just get dented a lot, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah. I
though.
mean, I'm not. I guess I'm in the middle on that. I mean, safety's important, right? They're putting up their bodies on the line for us, but
Yeah.
that's just a little detail that I noticed.
Hmm.
Like there wasn't a crazy spot like that where anybody fell through a ladder, like actually went through it. It's not on it.
Hmm.
But yeah, solid match. Great call to win. Very creative.
Yeah. One other thing I did have to say was, have you heard about everyone saying how WWE Creative is trying to make Zelina Vega like the new Sasha Banks with the hair and outfits and stuff? Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I did not hear about that. Don't do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I can kind of see where they're coming from because they changed her hair like Sasha did. They're
Right.
kind of booking her similar to how Sasha is a little bit with the outfits and everything. But yeah, I don't know. But I hope eventually we do end up seeing, well, Mercedes Fernando now. I hope we do end up seeing her back in WWE one day because she still has unfinished business, I think.
Yeah, she's got good connections with Hunter. I mean, Triple H
Yeah,
is part of her success, but down in NXT and the main
yeah,
roster for that matter.
hmm,
So I mean,
yeah,
oh, she'll come back eventually, hopefully.
yeah. And I heard her New Japan deal isn't that long either. So hopefully we do get to see her back. And this brings us to our first our World Heavyweight Championship match. And that is Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. In my mind, could have been a very, very great and crazy match. But to me, my first note literally says anticlimactic Seth win via Damian distraction. What are your thoughts on it?
Solid match, but worst of the night.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
and not
Thank you.
and
Thank
not
you.
not and not the best of these two have had. The best these two have had was back in SummerSlam,
Yeah, for
easily.
sure, for sure. Literally, I have in all caps mid-match. Should Finn have one question mark? I believe yes, because if we're building all this up, we had Finn put this much emotion. You stole it from me 7 years ago. You laughed in my face after I had to vacate the title a day after winning it. You laughed in my face, and this is my chance to get it back now. Should Finn have won to then further this make the Damian Priest and Finn Balor story more enjoyable? Because let's be honest. Let's be honest. This title, it literally it doesn't mean a thing. The only reason it's here because Roman, no one's gonna beat Roman anytime soon. They needed a main event belt on Raw. So does this title really have the same prestige as it used to, or like as the first World Heavyweight Championship does?
Yeah, and I mean, I remember we briefly talked about this too, on Instagram. Yeah, I mean, it did kind of give off the vibe of like none of y'all could beat Romans, so here you go. Like here's the
Yeah,
second
just like
place.
a
But
yeah.
so I mean, like when I don't know what was up with Triple H when he was like talking about it, like the time, like because he threw a little shade at Roman, low
Yeah, he
key,
did.
but
He was
also like
yeah.
still
He was like
downplaying the title.
he was like this champion is gonna be a champion, a fighting champion who defends whenever, wherever, unlike Roman Reigns who had the
But then he's
so
also like, "Well, I probably would have done the same thing." I was like, "Then why are you saying
yeah,
this?"
exactly. I just feel like they were like, here, since we have a lot of great guys on our roster, but Roman, we're not gonna take the belt off Roman. They literally said, Roman's here, you guys are here, take this belt and be happy.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why at the same time, on the other side of the coin, I think Seth winning was the right call because in my mind, I was like, okay, we got to give someone this belt that Roman hasn't beaten.
Yeah, yep.
So I mean, and obviously Seth was a part of his reign in the matches, but Roman did not
He did
beat
not
him.
beat
He
him. Yep.
retained his title, but did not
Mm-hmm.
beat him. So that's why I think Seth winning was the right call to make the title more legitimate. And Seth honestly just deserves it too. But
Yeah.
I will say this to kind of argue the point of the title not being worthless. Seth Rollins has already defended this title more often than Roman has defended his title this year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's defended the title. I saw the specific stat. It was like he's defended the title more than Roman has defended his title in 7 months.
Yeah, the only thing, like, I love that he's defending it. I just don't think it's ever gonna get the prestige if we have like these open challenges. Like, if the belt is supposed to mean something and you're supposed to be invested in it, these open challenges don't really mean anything. Like, why are we doing it if we're supposed to make the belt prestige, you know?
But on that note, John Cena's United States Open Challenge back in 2015 made that title prestigious.
Yeah, you're right. But yeah, okay. That's a good
'Cause
argument. That's a good
to
argument.
quote Cena, "It's not the title that makes the man; it's the man that makes the title."
That's a good argument. That's a good argument. I
I mean,
like
like
that comeback.
that's just the way I see it. I
Yeah, no,
mean,
I feel that. I feel that. I
don't
just
get me
feel like,
wrong, the
yeah.
world title is a world title, and I think the more you defend it, it makes it prestigious. But at the same time, it's like with Roman, the longer you have it, that kind of also makes it prestigious in the sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I got to side with the John Cena argument.
Yeah,
US Open Challenge.
I still don't know if I'm there yet. I feel like if it's a world title, I want to be invested in it, you know, but that's just me with my crazy opinions. But
But
yeah.
yeah, the only other 2 points, like, oh, actually, forgot to say this. Finn does eventually need a world title run. He does
Yes.
deserve that.
Yes.
And
Okay, we'll go. My bad.
you you said something that triggered this thought of I feel like WWE with your question actually you said this
Mm-hmm.
WWE kind of booked themselves into a corner because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like Finn's promos was very good, just bitter resentment. Like you
Yeah.
did this, you ruined my career.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like Seth needs a reasonably long title reign. Obviously not Roman long, but
Yeah.
I think like guys like Finn need a world title reign. I wouldn't mind seeing Drew run with that title because he's on Raw.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I just feel like they kind of did double book. They booked themselves into a corner a little bit.
Yeah. 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 I just don't want this. I want this title to eventually mean the same as the universal title, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And this brings us to our, oh wait, before we go into the last one, when you brought up Finn Balor, I don't want Finn Balor. I want Prince Devitt Finn Balor. I want ruthless, angry heel Finn Balor. Any willing to destroy anyone in his path, Finn Balor. And I believe that would just help him take his WWE, whole persona to a new level. Not necessarily changing his name back to Prince Devitt, but I
Right.
just want that personality. I want the New Japan Finn Balor to just run loose in WWE and dominate on Raw.
You know, and on that note, I think it would be kind of smart, like if they did go that route, and he just gets so angry and just so full of bitter, champion or not. I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
continues to just be so ruthless, where
Mm-hmm.
the demon can return again. I feel like that would
Mm-hmm.
make a little sense.
Yeah. All right. This brings
I also just miss the demon. So
Yeah, no, yeah. I honestly, I'm gonna be honest, I have a hot take about that. I don't know. But we can get into that another time. We can get into
yeah,
that. Yeah. But this brings us to the main event, the moment everyone was waiting for. We were waiting to see how this would play out. The Bloodline Silver War. Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa versus Jimmy and Jey Uso. What were your thoughts, bud? What were your thoughts?
I'm gonna go off more than just the points I made on my notes. But first off, fire promo, the hype tape before the match,
Yes,
fire,
that was
great
like a movie. I was like, yo, this is
was.
crazy. I was in watching TV hype. I was like, we're about to get the craziest match we've ever seen. Where it's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
So I mean, right off the bat, great start. I love that the London fans are singing the Usos song because like it's been
Mm-hmm.
pretty repetitive with the lyrics anyway. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I hope more fans start doing that. That was hype.
Yeah.
And just dude, I love how they need to do this more often on the main roster. And they did it all the time back in like the black and gold eras of NXT. I just
Mm-hmm.
love the black lights, then the lights come down like that, and then
Mm-hmm.
the ring
Mm-hmm.
announcers start doing it. Just
Mm-hmm.
facing each other like that was so hype.
Mm-hmm.
And just
Mm-hmm.
Usos doing
Yeah,
this,
the
like
classic, the classic NXT face off. Yes, bro.
right,
Yes,
running
bro.
their mouths a little bit. Even
Yes.
Roman got, I mean, well, Roman trash talks anyway, but like kind of
Mm-hmm.
stooped to the Usos level
Yeah.
and just
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right hand man, but also hype man. I mean, Jay's hype. I mean, that was just it
Yes,
adds a sense of realism to it.
it
I love
does.
that. I mean, so great intro.
It
Great intro.
creates a it creates how JBL used to say when he commentates, it creates a big fight feel, you know.
It
It's like
does,
this
dude.
is about to happen. This is real.
Right.
This is real beef between the family, you know.
Right. So yeah, I mean, just great start, just building up the intensity. I mean, the London crowd was going to be in it regardless. I mean, it just the moments from this match, dude. I mean, I know one of your notes is the tension between Roman versus Solo. I'm sure we're going to
Yeah,
talk about that.
we're definitely
That
gonna
that was
talk about that.
that was one moment. Double spear when Jimmy and Jay speared Roman. I love the double Uranagi with Roman and
Yeah,
Solo.
that
Like it just
the timing was crazy on yeah, that was
yeah,
yeah.
that the stack them, but they both kicked out. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a kick out of the year.
that is the I don't that kick out goes hand in hand. I know you don't watch AEW, but the Will Ospreay Kenny Omega match at Forbidden Door, uh Kenny Omega kicked out at a 1 count when Will Ospreay hit Kenny with his own finisher, the one winged angel. Did you see that?
Wait, when that happened, did Kenny get up and start hitting the ground? Like,
Yes, yes,
yeah, I
yes.
have seen that.
That was that match to me was the greatest. This is off topic. We're supposed to be talking about Money in the Bank, but
Yeah.
that Kenny versus Osprey match, no doubt, top top three best matches I've ever seen in my life. It was so great. The storytelling in the match was so amazing. The wrestling in it was amazing. Everything was in everything. You literally got everything you wanted to out of a wrestling match. But that's that we can talk about that another time.
Separate
But yeah,
topic.
the double stack pin. You know, Roman always says stack them, pin them, win. The double stack pin. I thought it was over. I was like, this is how it's gonna end. Roman said we was gonna say, and he gets the job done. But no, the Usos kick out at 2.99999 seconds.
And since WrestleMania, like I'm gonna go a little off topic to get back to the main
Yeah,
point.
no, you're
So
good. You're good.
since WrestleMania between Roman versus Cody, I was talking to my stepdad about it. I keep him in the loop. He'll watch wrestling with me, and
Mm-hmm.
he's actually a pretty big fan of Roman and Cody. He loved that
Mm-hmm.
storyline I told him about. I told him I was like, Mike, this is the first time in years I don't know who's gonna win
Yeah.
between Roman versus
Yep.
Cody.
It
I was
was
like,
very 50-50.
it was, and
Yeah.
I ended up leaning towards Cody, but then I saw Roman won, and it was a shocker. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so like after that, I was like, since WrestleMania this year, I'm like, okay, you really don't know until it happens.
Yep.
You don't like
Yep.
you can come up with educated guesses, they do happen, but
Mm-hmm.
when like stuff like this, like big time storylines, I'm like, you
Mm-hmm.
really don't know, like because it's always the what if. What if they don't do it? What if
Yep.
they change the plans the day of? So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like
Mm-hmm.
you and I great minds think alike. We're thinking
Mm-hmm.
Usos win, Jay's gonna pin Roman.
Mm-hmm.
But what if they didn't do that?
What
What
if
if
they
they
didn't
wanted
do
to
that?
continue Roman's dominance? So
Yep.
like you, man, I actually even at one point thought when Roman got the guillotine on Jimmy, I thought it was gonna end there. I
I
was
thought
like,
it was gonna I thought it was gonna end there too. Cause
yeah,
you remember
guillotine.
do you remember the Hell in the Cell match he had with Jay? And he
Yeah,
ended up putting Jimmy in the guillotine too. You remember
yeah,
that? Yeah.
yeah,
I thought
absolutely.
I was like, this is kind of full circle, but
No, yeah, I mean, and you could honestly make an argument for that. I mean, the Stack'em could have made an argument for that being the finish too, but London was chanting BS,
yeah,
their
yeah,
chants. I mean,
yeah. The
don't
chants
blame them
during
for
that
that.
match were insane. And Roman was talking back to the fans. He was saying, "This crowd, this place is the worst place in the world. I am never coming back here." Ooh.
Said to Paul, he sits down. Why do we even come here? Like
Yep, yep.
Roman's acting has come so far, man.
He's bro, compared to the famous infamous John Cena promo, he has come so far. And honestly, not a pretty short amount of time, the way his character has elevated and he's became the tribal chief in these past 3 years, he just leveled up so much, and he's definitely already considered a GOAT right now, and these 3 years have solidified him as a GOAT.
Sucks. But yeah, I mean, this or stack them and pin them. I thought it was gonna end there. That's a kick out of the year. Um, I like how, and I feel like this is coming full circle now with when you brought up Paul overhyping it. kind of a callback to Hell in a Cell when, like, Roman was, like, kind of, like, holding his knees and whatever, and he
Mhm,
was getting
mhm,
emotional. He still loves his family,
mhm,
but, like, he's a control freak. He
mhm.
still
It's
wants to be
a
on top. He's
yeah.
like, in his mind, he's like, I do love you,
Mhm.
but you gotta do what I say.
Yeah,
My
it's
way or
a
the highway.
yeah, it's the control of power, the power trip. Because there's sometimes where he'll snap out of it, and he'll be looking like, why are we doing this? Why am I doing this? And like even last night, you could tell he started doubting himself. Like, can we really get this done? And Solo, had to snap him back in it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No,
And
I mean,
the tension they brought between those two last night, before, Solo was in the ring and he was just staring at Roman before the tag. When Roman attacked, he was just staring at Roman. And I feel like that kind of alludes to Solo, eventually gonna turn on Roman maybe. And eventually that could be a whole nother storyline. And maybe he could eventually be someone that could possibly beat Roman for the titles.
I would not be opposed to eventually down the road, Solo does his own thing as a single competitor and Paul
Mm-hmm.
Heyman's still his manager.
Yeah. They could definitely they could just be great together. Paul Heyman add so much to anything he brings. He can make something that you think can't get any greater and make it the greatest thing you've ever seen.
I mean, just creative mind, great on the mic. I mean, Paul is one of the many MVPs in this whole storyline. And
Indeed, indeed.
but yeah, I mean, and just that's gonna be an exchange that's gonna live rent free in my head. Just like
Mm-hmm.
Solo missed the table, super
Mm-hmm.
kick, Superman punch, super kick
Mm-hmm.
again. And just Jay doing the like that with his
Mm-hmm.
arm after like basically
Mm-hmm.
saying like, come on,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm here. I'm main
Mm-hmm.
event Jay Uso. Like, come on,
Mm-hmm.
like you
I
you
put that on
made
my
me.
story. Yeah. Main
Yeah,
event Jay. You made this. You are the cause of this effect.
right.
Like really talking. Yes, Jay.
And
Yeah.
like and that spear was a good spear. Jay sold it
Yep.
perfectly. That was
Yep.
another solid kick out, and it just full circle from
Mm-hmm.
Roman's very first title defense against Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Low blow kick out. You
Mm-hmm.
deserve it, Roman.
Mm-hmm.
You deserve it.
And
And
now
just
I can't wait till Friday so we can see the fallout of this and see if Roman's demeanor changes, to see if he tries to lure the Usos back in, maybe. Like, okay, I admit it, I did wrong. I just want us to be family again. Because maybe he's scared that if they set up a match for SummerSlam, then maybe he could lose. Maybe this could be the actual downfall of the bloodline.
and just kind of like wrapping up the thoughts of the match. I mean, just Jay hitting the splash, Michael Cole, go
Oh,
commentator, right?
he's my goat. He's my goat. He's my goat. Michael Cole is my goat commentator. I don't care what anyone
I,
says.
I I can respect that. I mean,
Yes.
Cole is great, and
Yes.
just do you believe in miracles and just the count? I mean, and again, the fact that it actually happened. I mean, my
Yep.
mom is to my
I
right.
I was
My mom's
like,
to my right. Sorry, go ahead.
no, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Okay, yeah. So my mom's to my right. And like when it actually hit three, I almost jumped out of my seat. Like I went like that above
Literally,
my face. I was
literally.
like, dude,
I was like,
good.
this is
Like,
crazy. Like it actually happened. He got pinned. But
yeah,
what I
I'm
will
like,
say is, oh, keep going. You're good.
I was just gonna say, man, like all of these guys should be proud. I mean, like
That's what I'm
they're
saying.
all time storyline, great stuff.
What do we
Great
say?
stuff.
Cinema, literal cinema.
Yeah.
What was it? I was gonna say? I what the question I want to bring is, if Cody finally pins and beats Roman, does Jay pinning him first, even though it wasn't for the titles, does Jay pinning him first make Cody's win less anticlimactic? Because would it be better to say first time Roman's ever been pinned in over what it would be 4 years, no, next WrestleMania. Never been pinned, hasn't lost, and Cody's the first one to do it. Or he was pinned by Jay Uso, but he didn't lose the titles, but he was pinned. Does that make Cody's win less anticlimactic?
I say no because although Jay pinning him breaks the record of he hasn't
Mm-hmm.
been pinned this long, but it doesn't affect his title reign.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's how I
Cody,
feel.
yeah, Cody doing it, assuming it does happen eventually, that'll be. I mean that's when Roman, everything that Roman worked for is gone.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, so I mean, I say no.
I always played in my mind like the emotions I'm going to feel when Roman finally gets pinned for the championship. it's gonna be crazy, you know.
Yeah, I mean, just all the memes that you see on like Roman Reigns defeating Jaws at WrestleMania
Yep.
57, like
Yep.
like all that stuff. But like when it finally does happen, and I think it's also going to be one of those things where I mean we know that this is good, but then assuming Roman takes time off after he finally loses the title, which he probably
Mm-hmm.
will. I mean, it's like dang, like we really had something special,
Yep.
these past few years.
Yep. This will be, and when it's all said and done, I believe this will be the greatest story ever told in WWE history.
Yeah, I mean, I would the bare minimum on the Mount Rushmore of stories for sure.
Yep.
Last question I want to leave off with is this, and I've wondered this for a while now. Is Roman afraid of Solo?
Is Roman afraid of I wouldn't say afraid, but I think he knows that Solo's a threat to his reign.
I would say I think he is afraid of the fact of I don't know where this. I think he's just afraid of Solo just challenging his authority because he sees potential in Solo.
Mm-hmm. And the
Solo's all business.
yep, and the way he treats Solo remember on SmackDown, he laughed at the Usos when they talked about Solo potentially taking over.
Then just the
Yeah, and the staring at Roman, which it I saw someone else mention this in this story. Whatever they want us to infer, that's what's going to happen. Whatever they foreshadow, that's eventually what's going to happen. They want us to
right,
know that it's coming. You know, we just don't know when it's going to happen, but they want us to
right.
know that it's coming.
And I do think when Solo leaves too, that they should have a Roman versus Solo match. I actually do remember reading that they said they did have that planned. When,
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
I say this is just how I would have a basic booking for the remainder of this storyline in terms of matches. Roman versus Jay at SummerSlam is going to fill up seats.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I would like to see Roman versus Jimmy. Let's see main event Jimmy
Mm-hmm.
Solo
Mm-hmm.
at
Yeah.
least one time,
Yeah.
and then Roman versus Solo.
Yeah. I would love to see Jimmy get his solo action too, because Jay already has. We know what main event Jay Uso can do, but
Yeah,
what can main event Jimmy do? What
right.
we have not seen how far Jimmy Uso can take it.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think just Solo versus Roman would just be the best way I can describe it is just like a tug of war. I mean, like Solo's the enforcer. I mean, he's just
Mm-hmm.
hard hitting. I mean, just all power. And Roman's power too, but he's pretty
Mm-hmm.
athletic. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that'd be
Mm-hmm.
a really interesting clash of styles.
Mm-hmm. I just can't wait for the day we see, if we see it. I feel like we are gonna see it. It's a very high possibility. The day Solo finally hits Roman with the Samoan spike. The spike. This
Huge pop.
one thumb that can do so much damage. The turn, the turn of the century, man. To join his brothers finally to help bring down the tribal chief once and for all.
It's gonna be great stuff.
Yeah. Well, that about wraps it up for the first episode, guys. I'm glad we could, we're fine. We're getting the kinks and stuff out. This is just a pilot episode, so bear with us. But I believe we had some great takes and some great conversation about Money in the Bank, and we'll be doing a lot of different topic videos, and we'll be recapping a lot of the main shows, some of the Raws, SmackDowns, but most importantly, we'll be covering a lot of the pay-per-views to share our ideas and thoughts about that and all the questions we have, so we can just create a community of people who love to watch wrestling. So, like I said earlier, my name is Johnny King. You can follow me on Instagram at Johnny King with 2 Y's and 2 G's. And then CJ, you can shout your stuff out, brother.
Yeah. Like Johnny said, I mean, we're gonna stay up to date. We'll recap stuff, but have some prompts and new topics of conversation. Also stay fresh with content. And you can follow me at CJ underscore McClure 13. And thank God for wrestling.
Yep. Thank God for wrestling. That's how we're gonna end every podcast. You can follow us on IG at Thank God for Wrestling Pod. And yeah, at the end of every podcast, we're just gonna say thank God for wrestling, man.
Amen.
Yes, sir. We'll see you guys in the next one.